row. And to also to pack in so that when other people come, they don't have to go over people's shoulders and move people and so forth. These are the sunnahs of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inna alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh, wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Ma yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu, wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Dear brothers and sisters, we're blessed with countless favors and blessings from our beloved Creator and Provider, Master and ultimate guide. And in this journey we call life, guidance is the most precious reality that any one of us could embrace. And today we're going to talk about guidance in relative relevance to the reality that we're living in right now. And that starts with the concept of Black Friday. Of course, Imam going to bring Black Friday into Khutbah Jum'ah. Astaghfirullah. But actually it's quite relevant. And you'll see an amazing parable of what's going to happen on the Day of Judgment compared to what has happened this morning and late last night in the malls and in the stores and so forth. People rush in numbers, looking for the best deal, trying to make sure they can maximize the value of their wealth. They go to this store and that store and they've planned to get this and that, and they want to make sure they're the first in the line so that they can get the value that they're looking for. And it's natural. You're given an opportunity to save a lot of money and to get things that you hold valuable to yourself. It's quite natural. So that's the reality. Now the question is, we have to ask ourselves, when we read the Quran and the Sunnah, and we hear about this deed is worth that much rewards. When you do this deed it's 10 times. When you do that it's 70. When you do that it's 100 times. And when you do that it's a special, overwhelming reality. You get a house, palace in paradise. Are we looking to make those deals? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. And so, looking at spirituality, it's the other way around. We're not looking just to make the deal and get the bargain. We're looking to make sure we have plenty of wealth to get whatever we want without any question. That we don't find ourselves in a predicament on the Day of Judgment. So the Holy Quran says, إن الذين يتلون كتاب الله وأقاموا الصلاة وأنفقوا مما رزقناهم سرا وعلانية يرجون تجارة لن تبور. This ayah is consequential. That the true people of faith who regularly read and recite the Quran, they pray their 5 prayers and nothing can get in between them and those 5 prayers. They give out of their wealth, not just when people are asking for it and everybody sees, but they go when nobody's looking and they give their wealth. Those people, the Quran is testifying to the reality that they are looking for a business transaction that will never dwindle away. Its value will not go away. And so no matter what people bought this morning, it's all going to dwindle away. Every last bit of it. When you die and you're placed in that grave, you're not taking the PS4 with you. Nor will your knowledge of how to beat the game help you at all in that situation. This is the reality. This is the reality that's hitting us. يا أيها الذين آمنوا هل أدلكم على تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم. O you who believe, should I not tell you of a business transaction that will save you from some serious punishment? This is the guidance of Islam. The guidance of Islam is helping you to know your spiritual worth by judging your sincerity, your intentions, your heart, and your actions and what you do that reflects that. That's what Islam is. It's spiritual value, spiritual wealth. So a lot of Muslims are trying to get into Jannah, they're trying to get into heaven on a Black Friday deal. They're going to come on the Day of Judgment. Yeah, but you know, that one time I did that. But many of those other times you chose not to do anything. And you time and time again rebelled against the guidance. You chose immorality, following your desires. You believed a ridiculous belief that you should go to heaven just because you think you're a good person. And you neglected guidance and the message that was revealed through the prophethood. There's no Black Friday deals on the Day of Judgment. Many people are going to come to the Day of Judgment and they're going to realize that bargain that they were hoping to get is not there. And you'll see them with their heads, dragging. وَلَوْ تَرَى إِذِ الْمُجْرِمُونَ نَاكِسُوا رُؤُوسِهِمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ رَبَّنَا أَبْصَرْنَا وَسَمِعْنَا فَارْجِعْنَا نَعْمَلْ صَالِحًا إِنَّا مُوقِنُونَ. You see the correlation here? That you will see people who lived a life of heedlessness, of spiritual decadence. They weren't working at their spirituality. They didn't care so much. They'll come on the Day of Judgment. Oh no, look what's happened to me. And then the angel will come down, look at your deeds, and they're like, no, hold on. We see, we believe, we hear this Day of Judgment. We see it in front of our face. Send us back so we can go live again, and then we'll show you that we're truly believers. This is what the ayah says. Do we want to find ourselves on the Day of Judgment in such a state? No way. حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال رب ارجعون لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت كلا. The reality is that the death will come to all of us. We will all die. Maybe today, maybe next week, maybe next year, maybe 10 years, 30 years, 50 years. Allahu alam. We don't know. Not one person knows when they're going to die. And to my knowledge, we have buried in the graveyard here at least 4 people that are under 30 years old in the last 2 years. So don't think, oh, for sure, I'm going to live. That is a trick from Satan. Don't allow yourself to be tricked by him, because that's his whole plan. He wants your spiritual worth and value to be lowered. And he does it by whispering ideas that become your own. And you think, I'm just thinking for myself. No, you've been influenced by a certain influencer. Everybody has a da'wah, right? There's the da'wah of the prophets, and there's the da'wah of Satan. And there's the da'wah of those, probably the worst da'wah is those that mix between the two. Oh, I'm a good Muslim, but inshallah, I'm going to be able to do this. It's okay. No need, I love, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet, but I'm not going to make this prayer today. Very serious situation you find yourself in. So, this is the reality. I want to talk a little bit about the concept of sincerity and purpose of life as it relates to 2 very common realities in our youth. Because I know a lot of people, their parents went and got some of those Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed and the Skylander swapping and all of that. Right? Last night. I know a lot of people want to make sure that they have their iPad mini so they can keep up on their Facebook and going through the Facebook pages and answering and responding and everything all day, every day. Right? Somebody want to get that big TV so they can watch the big soccer game. Right? Or the football game. I'm not suggesting that these things that I just mentioned are haram. I'm suggesting that when somebody who has a problem in their heart and their understanding of their purpose in life, those things will become haram for them because of the harm that they represent, because of what they waste of your spiritual value. I myself have a Facebook account. I haven't played a video game in a while. I think we had a Wii U game with some of the 10-year-olds a way back here at the Youth Connect, and I played a little bit with them. No problem. Nobody's doing haram here. But when it comes down to spending hours a day, and that's your mission in life, and if somebody asks you about something of beneficial knowledge, you can't tell them. But when they said, how do you pass all these levels and beat all these guys? And you're like, oh, I can do it, and this and that and the other. You can explain the full guidance of the Xbox, which in the day of judgment in the grave has no value whatsoever. Zip, right? Same thing, Facebook. What is Facebook about? For many people, it is about feeling good about yourself. How many likes and, this persona you bring on the internet. Oh, and this is what I have to say, and this is what you have to say, and this is why I did this, and why you did that. And everybody, what do you think about this and all of that? And you really start to think, is there really any benefit being derived out of this? What are we all gaining from this? What is the spiritual worth and value that's happening here, right? A lot of people develop a fake personality on the internet. And we have next week a program that I think all of you should attend, because it's very crucial, because a lot of young kids are falling victim to various corruptions on the internet through these social media websites. So when you look at the way we spend our time and what we become to know, what is the most dearest things to our heart, and how much time and how much knowledge we have of them, when you look into those things, you will see your spiritual worth and your value. So the Quran and the Sunnah talk about this reality. It says, خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بِالْحَقِّ. He created the heavens and the universe in truth. In truth. وَمَا خَلَقَنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا لَاعِبِينَ. God says, we don't create the whole universe and everything in it just playing around, right? It's not just an explosion that blew up and now everybody just does what they want. Some people got smart, some people are animals in the jungle, and so forth. That is a trick. That is a very mainstream trick to corrupt our spiritual value and our purpose in life, in which we as human beings are quite different than all others. Would you imagine? A lot of people don't realize the seriousness of being a human. That is a very serious reality, right? And the Quran talks about what happens when people fall victim to this idea. إِنْهُمْ إِلَّا كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ سَبِيلًا. People can be like animals, even worse, whenever they don't understand their purpose in life. When they don't realize that out of all of the whole entire creation, everything there, the only entity that is aware of itself and aware of right and wrong and truth and falsehood and understands the consequences of those actions is the human being. That is it. And the human being has been given countless blessings and favors to understand how to properly deal with that. It's built in something called fitra, innate, inherent knowledge of the oneness of our Creator and our purpose in being in oneness with Him. Trying to support His cause. Rejecting one's carnal self-desires, what I want for me and now, which is what the disease of the modern world. I want for me, how can I look cooler? How can I look more pretty? Me, 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 me. They call it Generation Me. They're calling it that, right? Because everybody's self-centered. Islam is completely antithesis, the opposite to this idea. It's about everyone else and what I can do to benefit them. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, خَيْرُكُمْ أَنْفَعُكُمْ لِلنَّاسِ. The best of you are those that are most beneficial to the people around you. Meaning you sacrifice your own wealth and your own value for the well-being of others. Trying to give of yourself as Allah Azza wa Jal has given all of us this creation and subjugated it to us. سَخَّرَ لَكُمْ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. So, going back to how a lot of people spend a lot of time playing in life. I was watching some assessment of reality, and the guy said, yeah, the kids when they're young, they play with these things, and then when they get old, they have other toys that they play with, right? Some people, okay, now gotta have the latest, newest phone, and every time I gotta spend $200 to get the new one, right then and there, at that moment, right? And there's many things that when you look into it, people are treating things like it's for fun and games, and that's really what life is about, outside of work, right? And so we should be thinking about what we can do to build our spiritual worth and value. It says, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. In Surah Al-Ankabut it says that this life is treated by many people as just play or just wasting time. And the truth of the matter is, after we die, then everything is hanging in the balance. Is your spiritual worth and value? Have you cultivated? Have you worked to develop your spiritual side in your heart and in your actions as a result? And if you have, you are looking at eternity in paradise. And if you neglected it and didn't care, and this life was about trying to make everything fun and enjoyment, and you find yourself on the Day of Judgment with that reality, we seek refuge with Allah Azza wa Jal from that. Because guess what? This is not real life. Even these bodies that we're in, right? Don't get me wrong, we understand the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, but this body will not go into Jannah. It will not. Because in Jannah, there is no using the bathroom. There is no getting sick. There is no all of the things of this worldly, lowly life will go away. A lot of people, they don't understand heaven and paradise. Yes, there is a physical body, but it is completely different than this one. This one is flawed by nature. The one in heaven is not flawed. A lot of people, when they hear things about heaven, they're like, oh, that seems just like here. It's nothing like here. وَأُتُوا بِهِ مُتَشَابِهًا. And they have been given something that is like it but better. Something they couldn't even imagine is there in heaven. Right? But it takes people to realize purpose and work hard for it. So in the Quran, it also talks about in Surah Al-Hadid that know that this life, most people are treating it like fun and games and enjoyment, and it becomes now, going back to like Facebook and Twitter, تَفَاخُرٌ بَيْنَكُمْ. It's like who can be better and who can sound cooler and who can seem like they know the best, right? وَتَكَاثُرٌ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَوْلَادِ. And seeing how many kids in, the old tribal custom of just having kids to have kids. Islam teaches us that we have a huge responsibility in each kid, and we should be paying attention to how each kid is developing before we have another one, which is why the Jamahir al-Ulama allowed the concept of tahdid al-nasl, to plan your family. Why? Because if the wife and the husband are saying, I can't deal with the first one and making it right, and I'm concerned about the spiritual welfare, it's not a matter of I don't have enough money. That's a different issue that makes it haram. But if it's a matter of making sure that child is properly spiritually taken care of, then it's a very serious reality. So it talks about the parable of that. What is the parable of the people in this worldly life? They just want to have fun and games and enjoy themselves. Everything's about themselves, what they can get, what they like, what they enjoy, right? Which that is basically assessing this life as heaven. So this is heaven. Everything should be about me and having fun and all of that. That reality does exist, but you have to earn it. You have to show yourself that you are supporting a lifestyle which is about something greater than yourself. And that is the creator of the universe, and reflecting upon his will in opposition to your own personal desires. Because Satan, where he went wrong, is he focused on himself from the very get-go whenever he had a command that he didn't like. He had many commands that he had no problem with, and he followed and obeyed and was a great Muslim for a long, long time. But whenever it came that, oh, I prefer this one over you, he couldn't just submit and say God knows best. He couldn't do that. He had to assume he knows best, right? This is the corruption of every soul. I know it's best for me. I know the absolute truth. My ideas are the best. This is the modern liberal reality. A lot of the parents here are going, yeah, I deal with this problem every day with my kids, right? Isn't it? Kids, you have to respect your parents. They know best. They've lived a lot longer than you. They're looking out for your interests. They're not just trying to make rules to make rules. They're trying to prepare you to be a good, decent person with morals and values that is respectful, that will put you into heaven, where the most respect and contentment is looked for, in heaven with the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So it talks about the parable of these people and those people and the way they look at things. And it says, it is like when the rains come down and the green grass and the vegetation and the fruits is coming up, and everybody's like, wow, look at that. This is like the world of this life. But then it gets real cold, and then it starts to wither away, and it becomes yellow and orange, and then it dies away and becomes dust and nothing. That is the reality of this life. It's going to come and it's going to go. As it says, إِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ. The hereafter is the eternal, absolute life. Right? So we have to prepare for that. What is it about? It is about the essence of who you are. Pure sincerity. Where is your heart? Where is your heart? يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. On the day of judgment, your wealth, your status, your greatness, your kids, your family, your tribe, none of that will help you. None of that. On the day of judgment, the only thing that will help you is a pure, sound heart. A heart that was taken care of. Now some people say, well, alhamdulillah, I exercise and all that. Okay, that's one aspect, that's the physical, and that's good, and Islam teaches that. Exercise, eat well, don't smoke, and all these things. Don't drink, don't use drugs, and so forth, right? But the heart is also a metaphor for the core of who you are. When they say the heartland, it means Oklahoma, where I'm from, in the middle of the country. Yeah, this is the core. The core essence of something, its heart, right? Its nucleus. So who you are is your heart. And that's what the ayah is really talking about. If somebody comes on the day of judgment and their heart is filled with a deep love and loyalty and gratitude for one's creator, and so that affected who they were, then that person will be in great shape. And that person will be entering into a closeness and into the perfection of the presence of Allah Azza wa Jal. So that's the purpose. That's what we're doing here. And so, yes, the heart is the central organ of your body that is pumping the blood and giving you life. But at the same time, the heart is your soul, and how it sees things and how it feels and how it makes decisions and influences the mind and what the mind wants to do. And there is some interesting scientific research and discussions about that. There's an interesting documentary called I Am that I watched that you should probably watch, because it's a very interesting assessment. It brings science and sociology together in assessing what's going wrong with the world and how can we fix it. And so his final thing, which is the title, I am what's wrong with the world, and I am the one that can fix it as a result of my heart and my intentions and my selflessness, wanting to do good for others. Interestingly, when somebody gets sincere, they don't really know anything about Islam, and they just start using whatever tools they have in front of them, they come to a very Islamic conclusion, which is the fitra at work. It's the natural inclination to truth. So this is the reality we need to look at. We're not going to get into heaven on a Black Friday deal. You're not just going to go up there, oh, it's a bargain. No, I didn't really do much in life for spiritual care and concern and activity, but inshallah, I had a decent heart according to my assessment, right? We have to go by what is the definition of a sound heart according to the Quran and the Sunnah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. So what we're talking about today is something about the reality of the human being and the spiritual value that we all have. Every one of us has a certain spiritual value. Guess who will dictate, does that go up or down? You and your Creator. It's a relationship. He has guided all of us, and we have to seek the guidance and attempt to follow it to the best of our humanly ability, sincerely. If we do that, our spiritual value goes up. You can be like the Prophet ﷺ, the Bill Gates of spirituality, right? You can. Do your best to work at that, and you can be with the companions in his presence, working hard to establish your spiritual reality. That's the goal. That's why it says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. In him is the best example. Seek to reach that level. Some people say, oh, the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, they were just so miraculous and they did so. I could never be like that. That is like the person that got a scholarship to Harvard, and they're like, yeah, that's fine, but you know what, I could never do anything with anything in there. I could never accomplish anything. What kind of a person is that? That's a person that has no motivation towards what's in their best interest and benefit. So there's a famous scholar named Ata Illah Iskandariya. right? He was a famous scholar and he talked about spiritual things. And so he was talking about the famous hadith we know that says, indeed all deeds will be judged by the intentions and each person will have what they intended, right? And so basically he said, تنوعت أجناس الأعمال بتنوع وإرادات الأحوال. So Shaykh Ibn Ata'illah, he basically summarized this by saying, your deeds, the actions you do, are depending on your relationship with reality as you see it. And your intentions will be influenced similarly, right? So if in your heart and in your mind, the way you see the world around you, is that you are a special blessing, a creation of the Creator, with a special awareness of His attributes and His guidance, and you seek to deal with everything in your reality with that guidance, obviously the first natural response would be that you will read Quran and Sunnah a lot. Right now we have 30 members of a very valuable library. We need to have 300 members in order to fulfill the first step of the great sage Ibn Ata'illah's understanding. And it would only be arrogance for anyone to assume that I don't need that, because all of our great scholars continued seeking knowledge until they died and they never stopped. And those are the scholars. We're not even scholars here, and we need to have the same attitude as them. Divine guidance and knowledge is what will raise your potential for spiritual worth and value. It is what will raise your stock value with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the angels who write down the deeds. When they're writing down those deeds, the Dow of your soul is going up, and the Nasdaq and all of that is going up to the roof. But when you're not seeking knowledge, and when you're spending your time and effort and all of your focus on things that do not raise your spiritual value, then you will see that going down. And so this is the first part of it. So the second part of it, he says, الأعمال صور قائمة وأرواحها سر وجود الإخلاص فيها. So he said that your deeds are just images that people can see. But the truth and the essence of those deeds is the secret of sincerity behind them. Right? So what he's really saying here is that it's not necessarily important the deeds you did, or even if you did them. Right? Now don't misunderstand this. It is the intention that you have. It may be that you don't have any money in your pocket, but a true believer, when they see someone in need, they have a deep desire to help them. They feel that. They don't just drive by and don't pay attention or care or think about it at all. No, the believer is thinking. When the believer sees the social corruption, they feel bad. Their heart's alive. They're concerned. Their heart is being affected negatively by the evil that they see, and they want to do something about it. And so if they can, obviously they would exert their abilities to fix it. If they could say something to fix the problem, they will say something. But at least a believer's heart is regularly with istighfar and islah, hoping to seek forgiveness for the evil that's happening in oneself and around them, and seeking to fix problems by praying that Allah Azza wa Jal would intercede and take care of these problems. Now we're surrounded by corruption. You can know the level of your heart's salama. This is إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. You can now gauge how sound is your heart, and be aware, we all are surrounded by a da'wah of shaitan that is very strong and emphasized. And it's not just here, it's everywhere, right? So you have to work hard. That is what the concept of jihad is about. It's a personal, daily struggle with circumstances and situations and people in which you try to make good overpower the evil and the corruption. And so that requires a living heart that has sincere intentions. That I want every night you should sincerely intend to get up for Qiyam Layl. If you only get up once a week, guess what? According to the hadith and all of the great scholars, you will be rewarded for getting up every night, if indeed your heart was sincerely intending to do that. That is the mentality that we're looking for in Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, in building that spiritual leadership and moral greatness. It is a sincere heart, seeking to do good, to repair what is corrupt, to fix the wrongs, to bring about a unity in society that is morally sound and aware of what's in the best interest of people through divine guidance. And so we have a huge responsibility and we have a huge task at fixing what's in our heart. Because many of the ideas we have come from a certain environmental influence that is going against the current of raising spiritual value. There are people that are having the wrong focus, and there are people that have ill intentions to corrupt us in one way or another. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He would help us in purifying our hearts and to seek sincerity in our lives. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to be a people of purity in intention. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase sincerity in us by our motivation to seek it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that our actions be guided by revelation and a sincere intention to please Him and Him alone. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove from our hearts this showing off and this trying to please people when it comes to spirituality. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that our children will want to pray and want to take a break from Xbox and PlayStation and Facebook in order to embrace something spiritually beneficial and valuable. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us a people who see the map of guidance as it was revealed, and we embrace the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as our example, and we move forward in that guidance. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove the corruption and turmoil from all of the Muslims in the world, as well as the non-Muslims, and that the Muslims be the means to do it. Wa aqim as-salat.